Has the Western propaganda campaign against China failed? Foreign or international visitor numbers, let me say, are skyrocketing during the first half of the year. Beijing saw a year-on-year increase of 37%, while Shanghai's Pudong International Airport alone saw a surge of 46% of international visits. The more, the merrier. This built on the upward trend that started to gain momentum last year after China relaxed the visa requirements unilaterally for international visitors. So what's fueling the sudden China travel rush? What can we expect going forward, and what remains to be done to make China more accessible? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you live from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. I'm pleased to be joined from Niseko, Japan by Justin Downs, President of Access Leisure Management. From Rome, Italy, Ivan Cardillo, Chairman of Italy-China Business Development Forum. From Lima, Peru, by Jose Carlos Feliciano, Deputy Director of the Center for China and Asia Pacific Studies at the University of the Pacific, and here in the studio by Professor Liu Baocheng, Dean at the Center for International Business Ethics at the University of International Business and Economics. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. First of all, let's take a look at exactly how many people are visiting China. As I mentioned, for the first half of this year, the ports in Beijing saw a year-on-year increase of international entry and exits by 37%. That's a total of 2.9 million trips. While Shanghai's Pudong International Airport saw a surge of 46%, almost 50% of foreign visits, the total number reaching around 5 million. Justin, are these numbers surprising to you? How significant are these numbers to you?
I'm not surprised at all, actually. I mean, this is almost 8 million people just in 2 ports for the first half of the year alone. So I think it's a very clear sign that China has become interesting again for international travelers. I think it shows that China's tourism is recovering. And it's not just happening, it's actually accelerating, right? So I think if this trend continues for the next 12 months, we'll be well ahead of the pre-COVID numbers. So I think all of these things like enhanced visa policy and just the ease of traveling and increased air demand and supply by the airlines is fueling all of this. It's just become easier again.
Ivan Cardillo, you have lived in China for quite some time, for years, and you are in and out of China very frequently. How do you look at this number and the trajectory that we've seen over the past 5 years? Let's say first the COVID, where international visitors and the people, expats in China were at a historic low, and now we're kind of rebounding very fast.
Yes, the numbers are very encouraging. The trend is growing, and people are also exploring more and more other cities, what we call the second-tier cities. And so there is an increasing demand in getting a deeper experience of China. You mentioned numbers about Pudong International Airport, but there are more and more foreigners visiting cities like Chengdu and also Wuhan, and so I see this as a good signal because it's a way of engaging Chinese society also at a different level and also from different perspectives.
One thing that actually stood out is the increased interaction between China and countries that are originally not so much looking to their Chinese travels. And Jose Carlos Feliciano, from your part of the world, Lima, Peru, for instance, have you picked up a growing interest in China, in travel to China, and the discussions that people in your part of the world are having? What's fueling this picked up interest, if there is such a trend?
Yeah, some months ago, China free policy reached to 5 countries here in South America. So this notice actually really create a lot of buzz in regards of the interest of the people to travel to China. So right now, for instance, Peruvians they can get up to 30 days for free visa in China, and this for sure will increase the number of tourists and business visits, especially in terms of short business visits. Right now, like we are seeing a lot of promotion in terms of business traveling and also business fairs in China. So in the next months, I think like a lot of businessmen from this region, especially from Peru, Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, they will definitely choose China as a destination for the first time, and of course also to do business with these short visits.
Just now, many of my guests mentioned actually the visa policies. So exactly what policies are in place, it's actually not so obvious yet. So let's review what kind of policies China has put in place. In December 2023, China extended visa-free access to citizens from 6 countries, making that 7 in total. And the 6 countries included France, Germany, Italy, so some European countries. And these nationals from these countries are exempt from visa requirements when entering China for business, tourism, family visits, and cultural exchanges, so on and so forth. In the beginning, it was only for about 2 weeks, and now that's been extended to up to 30 days. Over the course of last year, China added a further 31 countries to the list, including Switzerland, Ireland, and Hungary. And the list continues to grow this year. To extend to 9 other countries, making it 47 in total. That include Brazil, Chile, as my Peruvian friend just mentioned, and also to Middle Eastern countries such as Saudi Arabia. So these nationals from these countries can come to China. Meanwhile, there's another scheme, which is transit visa-free scheme. China has optimized that as well. Today, nationals from a total of 55 countries can take advantage of this policy to stay in China up to 10 days, 240 hours, visa-free, before heading to their final destination. Professor Liu, how much have these policies made it easier for people to come to China? And what does that say about the intention of Chinese authorities in terms of international dialogue and exchanges?
I think fundamentally it shows that China continues to open its door and welcome international visitors for business, for leisure, for cultural exchange, academic exchanges. And this really sounds to be rather technical, but it's very helpful, particularly for those who wanted to discover or rediscover China and what is going on over there. So this gave them quite a relief in terms of the looking for access into China with all the long visa applications. Actually, we have a number of experiences, hesitating whether we are going to visit certain countries when the visa is unpredictable, or at least we're going to see quite a delay. So this does really give them a very positive signal. And the other is that the duty-free shops and the tax refund is also very encouraging for people to come here and buy some made in China, and then take advantage of the price scheme with such sort of policy. And then, with that, actually, more of those hospitality amenities are really being made available. So this really are there to combine to help to alleviate some of the apprehension, and then to give them the total satisfaction of the comfort of visiting China. I think one more very important thing is Chinese economy, because many people they come here, they may be simply for tourists, but many of them are really wrapped the multiple type of purpose, engaging with China. So Chinese economy by 5% growth, it really doubles of the whole world average. So this gave them ample opportunities to look what would be the opportunities for collaboration, for entrepreneurship, and for some other type of engagement, even for the young people to engage in the e-commerce. So this is very encouraging.
Yeah, indeed, there's a lot to unravel there. But Justin, let's look at the individuals that are making these plans. Just now, Professor Liu mentioned the word apprehension. What is your experience? What prevents China from making that? What prevents potential visitors from making that final decision? Say, okay, China is far away, the tickets are expensive, but I am going to make that adventure.
Well, I mean, firstly, I'll say this policy is a game changer. I mean, it's huge for tourism into China or even business travel into China. I mean, yes, there used to be a very burdensome administrative task to go to a visa center to apply for a visa. It took time. It was nerve-wracking. People go, oh my God, this is the experience I'm having with China before I even get to China. What's it going to be like? So I think it's really lowered the psychological tension of travelers that want to come here. So that's huge. So people are now thinking, okay, I'm allowed to go. Why not I just stop for a couple of days and enjoy Beijing or Shanghai or Guangzhou or wherever my stopover might be? It just says, why not? And the younger, not everybody, but the younger generation has become more of a spontaneous traveler. They go, oh, there's a good deal. I'm going to go to Australia and I can stop in Beijing along the way for 3 days. That sounds like fun. Rather than taking a 16-hour flight from one end of the earth to the other, they can stop and have some culture, have some experience. And I think it's just made everybody much more relaxed. And I think the promotions that have been coming along with the visa-free tourism is that you can communicate, you can get around, it's affordable, you're going to be able to eat, don't worry, you're going to be able to travel, don't worry about any of these things, it's easy. So I think that's really the message that's getting out, and that's why this policy is going to succeed for China.
Well, let me also add my fresh experience. A month ago, we had a Zoom conference with a number of scholars in Europe, from Switzerland to France, and they said, okay, they asked me, how do I visit China? Now I said, well, you check with the embassy or simply hit on the net, it's a visa-free. This is, for them, it's really mind-blowing. So therefore, last week, I received all of them here. So therefore, they just... and they, all of them would say they travel from Beijing to Wuhan and then to many other cities. So this is really something that's beyond their expectation. So this is really something that's refreshing and give people more of the, I think, the spread of the message with the word of mouth, because they are all very influential people back at home.
Yeah. Well, Yvonne, is that the experience that you have? Actually, China has gone through a lot of changes. China has, taken huge steps in terms of opening up. If you compare to the past, where you have to go to the embassy or you have to mail in your application, it takes time, it's expensive, quite expensive, I would say, and it's just very scary. And now, all of a sudden, what? You can just go? I mean, people seem not to have made that kind of connection yet. Yvonne, is that your impression? What can be done to let more people know that China is accessible? You can do it.
Yes, it's now people can think about spending a long weekend in China, buy last minute ticket and go. The digitalization of the society has been presenting as a milestone or a great achievement in the modernization of the country. And in my perspective, this can be a double-edged sword. Like, how can I do without WeChat? Can I survive? How should I use Didi? Or what can I do, like, to move? Will I be able to find a taxi? I remember the first time I went to China was like 20 years ago. You can stop a taxi on the street, raise your hand and get a cab.
Now they wave back.
Now they're all busy. They all, they just pass by. So you need to know ways to connect.
Course. Yeah.
And so in this perspective, the Chinese government is taking care also of foreigners and the challenges, like, for example, the use of cash. Now the Chinese government is requiring hotels and restaurants to keep receiving cash and keep also accepting foreign credit cards. So it's not just only Alipay, Zhifubao or WeChat. They still need to use those other more, let's say, traditional, conventional ways to support travelers. On the other hand, I see a big effort because we see like Alipay, you know, an English version of the app. Didi also is having an English version of the app. Also, you can link a foreign a credit card to Alipay, and that is extremely convenient. What I see like still a challenge sometimes is to connect your chat. Like sometimes you need to go through a foreign ID verification process, and that might be, you know, a kind of annoying because sometimes it might take up to 24 hours. So if you are just there for a transit, it's not really convenient. So, but that for the, so there is like room for improvement also to you know, still you know, like there are so many apps now have their own translation system, so it's really easy, you know, for people who cannot speak the language to communicate.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I get it. You already have a lot of information in your answer. All of these names, right? The apps and the language ability that's necessary, or the ability to use smart technology such as translation apps, is clearly not easy for everybody. Jose Carlos Feliciano, what is your observation of the kind of mindset, of the kind of readiness people need to prepare themselves before they embark on a trip on China? And what is the key to the success of navigating the totally different digital systems that China is very much developed in?
Yes, I think basically a lot of young people, especially I would say in Latin America, are getting attracted by China in terms of going there to do tourism, basically because they do have this adventure spirit, and of course also because they see China as a place in which technology and digitalization are one of the key main drivers of the country. For instance, they receive this image and they are really willing to explore and experience China through this way, right? I think in terms of the readiness, I think young people are very, very open to try the apps. They are very open to try new destinations. And since China is, of course, a very, you know, like distant destination from this region, usually people try to spend most of the time in Asia or in China, right? Let's say 2 weeks or because I mean, since the traveling it takes more than 24 hours, the people try to take more advantage of the time. And of course, like China has a convenient infrastructure. I mean, when you see the airports, the train system, it's extremely very convenient to travel, right? And of course, I do think that another way in which people are getting more enthusiastic about traveling to China is through the use of the social media, especially let's say Xianghoshu or Douyin or WeChat, in which they can see, you know, images, or they can follow some influencers, and of course see the attraction that China has to offer, right? I mean, in that sense, people can travel not only to the, let's say, the main cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, but as some speakers mentioned before, right? Like try to travel to other second or third tier cities, which has also a lot of attraction for them.
Well, indeed, it sounds like a mammoth project, and people of different age groups seem to have different channels to get their information, and therefore, you know, their experience can be very different. Professor Liu, what do you see is something that China can do better? We already done a great deal, right? Let's acknowledge that. China has tried to make it extremely easy for international visitors, because here in China, practically nobody uses cash anymore, except the 80s. Those in their 80s, they are, you know, still using their bills, but everybody else is paying with a phone. So for international visitors to come here and then use US dollars, right, or use renminbi, it's just not. It's not because they're foreigners that it's not working. It's because nobody's using a bill. Nobody is using hard currencies anymore. So what can be done to make it even more accessible for international travelers?
Well, our colleagues at this panel, they are frequent visitors in China, and we need also stand in the shoes of those first-time experiencers to explore China. So I think one is that we need to produce and promote a package of tips as how they can really take a better advantage of all the services available through the diplomatic channels and also through the travel agencies and also the air travelers, so that they can really get the right type of information as how to link, for example, their MasterCard, their Express to the RMB, and then how they can really download some apps for hailing services, and how to look for the help in terms of emergency, dealing with clinics, dealing with the security checks, or etc. So that, I think, that can easily be done. It's instead of simply amplifying how great China are, which
Provide
is really
more
the
service,
destination,
basically.
but a very practical service is something that's extremely important. And the other is that we need also to promote more of the people-to-people exchange in friendship. For example, when people know some friend, even online, within China, they can really consult them and they feel the level of comfort and someone to rely on when something that's confusing. So, these are really the very simple but very important means to really alleviate some of the anxieties, particularly for those fresh travelers into China.
Justin, what are you hearing from potential from people who are exploring the opportunity or the possibility of visiting China? What is their biggest concern and what is the biggest attraction for them?
Well, the silly thing is that their biggest concern is can I access my Facebook or my Instagram while I'm or Twitter while I'm in China? And the simpler answer to that, which they're often surprised about, is yes, you can. So you can access these apps and things, these social media systems, if you're still roaming on an international phone. So that's easy. You can access VPNs. These things are accessible. So these barriers that they think, okay, I'm going to be censored and I'm going to be blocked and I'm not going to be able to communicate with the rest of the world, we just need to let them know that that's no longer an issue. They're concerned about language and how they're going to communicate. As we already know, in the first tier cities, Beijing, Shanghai, for example, everything is easy. Menus are in English, or there's pictures. The subways in English. Translation apps work. The second and the third tier cities, as we said, they're a little bit more of a challenge, and that's where perhaps the central government can focus on trying to improve these highly interesting cities, but still are not user friendly for English speakers. But I do really think that China has made leaps and bounds, and it's so far ahead of where it was before COVID. I think people will be surprised. And one of the key things is that the government, I think, has made a conscious decision to do is the messaging that it's sending out about visiting China is not being controlled through traditional media channels. So the KOLs and the live streaming and all of these types of things, people now really can see that this is a real, authentic experience. This is the real view, and it's really lowering people's hesitation, because now people can see what it's really like, authentic experiences.
Yvonne, coming from Europe, where there are actually a great perceptional gap, let's say, about what China is, about the political system, let's say, a lot of discussion about ideological differences and so on and so forth. Do you see an emerging trend where people are saying, okay, China is open, I would like to see for myself, maybe China deserves the benefit of the doubt, despite what they're seeing and reading in the press? Is that somewhat happening?
Yes, especially with the young generations as university students. This policy, this free visa policy, is really changing. We have an experience-based perception, which is displacing an ideological shaped perception. And this is really a great change. I'm engaged in universities, also teaching Chinese law, and many of my students, they're eager to go to China, to do research in China, to engage more with
How
their
about those who went to China?
counterparts.
How about those who came to China? Did they went back disappointed? Did they went back more intrigued? What is their impression?
Fantastic. They were very enthusiastic. They were very enthusiastic. They were like, it's really, the image. But this is something that has been going on since the 16th century. Like how you shape China as the otherness or a different experience of common human values. So this is
Matteo
exactly,
Ricci, yeah.
like the way you choose your perspectives. And I see younger generations, they like to visit China. They like to engage with China. There is also, I even can say, like a kind of a common culture in terms of music they listen to, K-pop groups and whatever. So there is something already a common ground, cultural common
Maybe
ground, which is
C-pop
taking.
one day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, okay. We don't have that much time left. Jose Carlos Feliciano, very briefly, within 1 minute, if you can. What is the biggest wish you have on your China list that you want to see changed in the coming half a year, let's say, if you have one?
Yeah, well, I think for me, since we're also based in the university, right, our center encourage students also to do research and to travel to different destinations, including China. So, for instance, this visa-free policy that China has towards Peruvian, it's also boosting the participation, for instance, of some of our students in summer courses, right? And since these summer courses are less than 30 days, students from our university are taking part of this in Beijing, in Tsinghua University, in Shanghai, Pudong University. So I do hope that more students and more young people have the chance to see
Great.
China
Work
and
with
its
my
futuristic
university.
landscape.
Good. Also, University of International
yeah,
Business and Economics.
That's right. That's my promotion.
Yes.
That's your promotion. It's well deserved. Professor Liu, before we wrap up, going forward, from your understanding of what's on the mind of Chinese policymakers, will the policy intensify in the next 5-10 years? Do we see a certainty? And is there going to be greater openness to address the issues such as the one that Justin alluded to?
Definitely. We are very much committed and resolved to move forward, broadly speaking, for the open door policy and also to have rule of law based the institutional opening. So this is something that we're never going to reverse. And I think more importantly, when China is really converging from the production-based one to innovation-based one in terms of the economic paradigm, we're going to attract more of the people to engage with China in the whole high-quality development program. And when we are also elevating our educational curricula, so therefore more of the foreign students are expected to come back and also to increase. And so with all the infrastructure that is on rapid improvement, and this is really going to give a very fresh and also the rewarding experience to international travelers.
Well, a bit more open-mindedness, patience, and look around. There are services available. You just have to look for them for the time being. But thank you so much. We have to leave it there. Justin Downs, Ivan Cardillo, Jose Carlos Feliciano, and Professor Liu Baocheng joining us from different parts of the world. Thank you so much for your insights. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and X using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing. On behalf of the whole team, thank you for watching. You've got the point.